Alright, so I'm playing this game called Dagon, which is a free game on Steam. So it's supposed to be a horror game. A let's see. Trivia DLC. Alright, so yeah, let's check it out. Dagon is a faithful interactive adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's work focused on story and atmosphere. You know, I don't even have my headphones plugged in. I feel stupid. You will not find difficult choices, action sequences, or inventory management here, and movement is limited to progressing through locations along with the plot. Okay, cool. Can I use my controller? Let's see if I can use my controller.
I am writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more.
I can. Okay. During the game, you will encounter interactive elements. Some of them will allow you to continue your journey. Others reveal interesting facts about the original short story, its historical background, and the author. Some of the trivia is hidden. In order to find secrets, focus your eyes and look for the elder sign. Okay. So, interesting. I'm gonna clear out my pockets. Sorry. I do this stuff at work because I own a little business, and so it gives me some time to mess around. A lot of people don't get that, so I should count my blessings. Alright, so... Okay, we'll see what happens. So let's see if... Okay, so I can look around, but I can only look so far. I am going to adjust the brightness level, honestly, because these videos just make it... I'm going to turn off VSync too. Resume. Okay, there we go. Alright, so what's
Penniless,
this?
and at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below.
Sorry, guys. Wow. This is not going well. I'm just gonna keep going. I didn't even hear what he said. Oh, shite. Alright.
Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate.
Okay.
When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death.
Cool. Okay. So, what is this? Ink. We're gonna write a letter.
It was in one of the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider.
I kind of don't like that I can't walk. Can I use the... So I'm on this big boat, it looks like. Oh, let's see.
The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation. So that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners.
Wait, what's that up there? It's kind of like a point and
So
click
liberal,
game, which
indeed, was the discipline of our captors,
I don't love,
that
but
5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone in a small boat with water and provisions for a good length of time.
nice. Get out of there. How do I get on the boat? Oh, I gotta get my stuff.
When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings.
This isn't the place you want to be.
Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator.
Stars. Yeah, I think that's like the belt of Orion or whatever. Oh wow, I can kind of look all over. That's cool. There's the moon. Can you imagine being out on the water like in the middle of the night, in the middle of nowhere?
Of the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight.
Gives me the creeps. At least I got a lantern. Okay. Am I supposed to be looking for something? Oh, the moon.
The weather kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land.
Okay, so let's look around. Wow, just hanging out on the ocean. At least I got water.
But neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue.
I'm gonna die out here.
The change happened whilst I slept.
Whilst. That's a
Its
weird word.
details I shall never know. For my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous.
Oh boy. Ah! That's not what you want to wake up to. One of those
When
squids?
at last I awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see, and in which my boat
Wow,
lay
look at
grounded
that.
some distance away.
Oof. I don't even see the boat. Oh yeah, there's the boat. Gross.
Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished. For there was in the air and in the rotting soil a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core. The region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish and of other less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain.
Ugh. That's nasty, man. Oh,
Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity. There was nothing within hearing and nothing in sight save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear. The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet.
gross. Oh, what's that? Oh, that's that symbol we were looking for. The Origins of Dagon. Dagon seems to be inspired by Fishhead, a short novel by Irvin S. Cobb about unnatural affinities between a hybrid idiot and the strange fish of an isolated lake. Supernatural horror in literature. H.P. Lovecraft, and Lovecraft's dream about a strange island emerging from the ocean and him crawling in the ooze that covered its surface. I dreamed that whole hideous crawl and can yet feel the ooze sucking me down. In defense of Dagon, H.P. Lovecraft. Lovecraft's interest in the topic stemmed from the aversion to fish and sea smells, in his own words. I have hated fish and feared the sea and everything connected with it since I was 2 years old, but I cannot recall what earlier experience gave me such a profound and lasting aversion to the sea and seafood. The Dweller in Darkness, Lovecraft, 1927, Donald something. All right. You can read the Discover trivia immediately, or go back to them later in the main menu. Turn off displaying trivia if you find the feature distracting from the story. This can be changed anytime in the options. Okay. Very gross. So what now? Oh, probably try to get to the boat. Or, I mean, not that it's going to do any good. where you're
As I
gonna go.
crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my position. Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths. So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, straining my ears as I might. Nor were there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things.
What's this? It's a huge fish.
For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens.
Looks like the sun is moving.
As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time. That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea.
Time to get out of here.
On the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease.
Oh, that's good. Still looks pretty gross.
The odor of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal.
I have no idea where I'm going. Just walking.
All day I forged steadily westward, guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert.
They look like those, what is it, Starship Troopers, those monsters. The aliens, I guess. Gross. Ugh. Oh, look, it's a regular humpback whale, at least.
That night, I encamped, and on the following day still traveled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it.
Yeesh. Some gross-looking tentacles. What's that? Oh. The creator of the Cthulhu mythos and the fictional underwater city of the Relay was convinced that life could not exist without the bottom of the ocean because the water pressure would make it uninhabitable. Could not exist at the bottom of the okay. Today we know that the darkest depths of the ocean are home to many peculiar organisms. The deepest dwelling fish we have discovered so far, the Marina snailfish, can live about 8,000 meters, more than 26,000 feet, wow, below the ocean's surface, in never-ending darkness at hellishly crushing pressures, hundreds of times stronger than those found at sea level. That's nuts. Upon glancing at the modern photos of the deep-sea creatures, such as the anglerfish, the fangtooth, or the viperfish, and their truly Lovecraftian characters, it's hard to find some irony in this. Yeah, those things are... I mean, I've heard they have some really crazy fish at the bottom of the sea. I think I've seen some documentaries, too, and they look like aliens.
By the fourth evening, I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance. An intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface. Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill. I know not why my dreams were so wild that night, but ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more. Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure, and in the glow of the moon I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day. Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy.
Oh, wow.
Indeed,
I mean,
I now felt quite
kinda
able
makes
to
sense.
perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset. Picking up my pack, I started for the crest of the eminence.
Good luck. It's a long walk. Oh, my pack.
I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me. But I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon, whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine. I felt myself on the edge of the world, peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night. Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost and of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness. As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined.
Okay.
Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent.
Thank you.
Whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became
very gradual. Oof. Yeah, no thanks. I would not want to do this.
Urged on by an impulse which I cannot definitely analyze, I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope beneath, gazing into the Stygian deeps, where no light had yet penetrated. All at once, my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope, which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me. An object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon.
That's creepy. Is there anything else I'm supposed to be looking for? Oh, I see that thing. Guess he's gonna walk over to it.
That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself.
Very weird.
But I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature. A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express.
Okay.
For despite its enormous magnitude and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith, whose massive bulk had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures. Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely.
This dude's out in the middle of nowhere.
The moon, now near the zenith, shone weirdly and vividly above the towering...
Oh, oops, I hit a button. Vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed in the chasm. Oh, that's creepy.
And revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions, and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope. Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the Cyclopean monolith, on whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures. The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me and unlike anything I'd ever seen in books, consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like. Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world, but whose decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain. It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound. Oh,
Here's some more fun facts. Dagon contains many themes and storytelling methods that Lovecraft developed in his later works, such as telling the story through carvings at the Mountains of Madness in the Nameless City, journals and characters, notes, the shadow out of time, the hunter of the dark, islands emerging from the ocean, the call of Cthulhu, I've heard of that one, or fictional beings and deities based on real events and mythologies. Migo on the Whisper in Darkness. I've never heard of most of these. It's also considered the origin of the popular Cthulhu mythos. Some of Lovecraft's other stories also conclude in a manner similar to Dagon. But let's skip the details in order not to spoil the ending. Okay. So...
Plainly visible across the intervening water on account of their enormous size were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a doré. I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of men, though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto, or paying homage at some monolithic shrine which appeared to be under the waves as well. Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail, for the mere remembrance makes me grow faint. Grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer.
Those are ugly.
They were damnably human in general outline, despite webbed hands and feet, shockingly wide and flabby lips, glassy, bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall. Curiously enough, they seem to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background. For one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself. I remarked, as I say, their grotesqueness and strange size, but in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe. Some tribe whose last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born.
Oof. Man.
Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me. Then, suddenly, I saw it.
What's happening? What did he see? Is there something in the water?
With only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface,
Yeah, it's something in
the
the water.
thing slid into view above the dark waters.
Uh-oh.
Polyphemus-like and loathsome, it darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith,
Yikes.
about
What is
which
that?
it flung its gigantic scaly arms, the while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sound. I
Yikes.
think I went mad then.
I don't know how
Of
it
my
took so long
frantic
to
ascent
go
of the
mad,
sloping
but
cliff, and of my
I would've been
delirious
mad
journey back to the
a
stranded
long time
boat,
ago.
I remember little. I believe I sang a great deal and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing.
wow. So yeah, you were going a little crazy. That sounds kind of crazy. Singing and laughing when you're in this situation. Okay.
I have indistinct recollections of a great storm sometime after I reached the boat.
Man. So...
At any rate, I know that I heard pearls of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods.
Yep, that's a bad situation to be in.
When I came out of the shadows, I was in a San Francisco hospital, brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean. In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention. Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing. Nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe.
So that's it. I'm out of there. Thank God. Oh, here. There's something. Lovecraft was a prominent figure in the world of amateur journalism. In 1915, he started publishing his own journal called The Conservative, which included political and social commentary, poetry, short stories, and literary criticism written by him and other authors. Howard was a skilled wordsmith, but he also took criticism to heart, which resulted in his decision to step away from writing poetry and concentrate on weird fiction again. For the first time since his teenage years, Dagon, published in 1919, is one of the short stories written during that period. In this example excerpt from The Conservative, the master of the horror fiction explains his attitude towards warfare and the idea of world peace. Oh, that's cool. There's a little more to the story. Why any sane human being can believe in the possibility of universal peace is more than the conservative can fathom. Should the entire civilized world agree simultaneously to disarm, one or more nations would undoubtedly retain secret armaments and the proper time take advantage of their more altruistic and less astute contemporaries in a wild career of the conquest against unarmed victims. Sorry, I'm struggling to read some of this stuff. I promise I can read. It's just these words are weird. I don't see them often. No country is or even can be above warfare until the basic impulses of human animal shall have miraculously changed. Okay, well, that's an interesting... There's a lot to this. Like, there's a lot more than just... a creepy story. Like, there's, I guess, sort of a message, it sounds like. Pretty good, too.
Once I sought out a celebrated ethnologist and amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god.
Dagon was the main deity of the Philistines, worshipped throughout the Middle East as the ancient god of fertility and crops. In Hebrew, the word Dagon was common noun for grain. The rulers of Akkad, Mesopotamia, chose him as the patron saint of their war conquests. He also appeared as the judge of the dead in an Assyrian poem and an underworld prison warder in one of the Babylon texts. He is often mistakenly taken for a fish god due to the wrong interpretations of his name, as in Hebrew the word dag means fish. Okay. In H.P. Lovecraft's work, Dagon is an underwater deity ruling over the deep ones, a humanoid race with fish traits that reside in the oceans. He is worshipped by a secret cult called the Esoteric Order of Dagon. Oh, wow. I'd like to read this book. I think that'd be kind of cool. Okay, so is that it? What now? Is there anything else here? I don't see anything. Oh.
But soon perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not press my inquiries.
August Derleth and the Cthulhu Mythos. August Derleth was an American writer and the anthologist. He also befriended Lovecraft and published many of his works through his company Arkham House. Although he greatly contributed to the popularization of the author's work, after his death he is surrounded by numerous controversies. One of his most questionable decisions involved introducing the good versus evil doctrine to the Cthulhu mythos, which contrasted with Lovecraft's view of the world and his approach to cosmic horror. As a result, the author's work are often misunderstood and misrepresented in today's culture. I've heard that quite a bit. It is also worth noting that Lovecraft was never really interested in creating a mythology, and the term Cthulhu mythos was coined by Derleth after the author left the mortal plane. Okay. Very weird. What's over there? creepy statue, and it's staring right at us. Okay. What am I supposed to be looking at here? Oh, wait, what's that? Oh. Oh, I guess I can... Is that the door? Like, what's going on? It's just like walking around.
It is at night, especially when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing.
Oh no, what thing?
I
This is
tried
back. We're
morphine.
back at the beginning.
But the drug has given only transient surcease, and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave. So now, I am to end it all, having written a full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men.
Don't do it, buddy. Don't do it. Oh, do I have to do it? I don't want to do that. Let's read this first. Lovecraft hated tobacco, even though he used to smoke when he was 12 in order to look and feel like an adult. In his correspondence with friend Reinhard Kleiner, he claims that he quit as soon as he started wearing long pants. Okay, it's a weird time to quit. He also had very strong opinion about alcohol, as evident by his letter to Zelia Brown, dated 13th February 1928. As for the matter of drinking, I never tasted intoxicating liquor and never intend to, having a strong aesthetic disgust for anything which blunts or coarsens the delicate nature, equipoise of the evolved human intellect and imagination. Yeah, alcohol's bad. Yeah, I drink sometimes, but it's bad. Drinking excited my personal repugnance, hence I don't drink. Let the herd do what they will. I am rather in favor of prohibition. The prohibition of any one antisocial force is as well as any other. Okay. Well, so he doesn't like alcohol or tobacco. That's cool. Whatever. Good for him. All right. I think I have to do this, guys. I think I'm just like gonna. I think
Often,
that's it.
I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm, a mere freak of fever, as I lay sun-stricken and raving in the open boat after my escape from the German man of war.
It's definitely possible,
This
dude.
I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed.
Gross.
Worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite. I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind.
I can see it.
Of a day when the land shall sink and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium.
I could see it. These monsters just decide to attack us. Especially, like, we don't pay attention, you know? People just don't pay attention to anything anymore. Everybody's on their phones or doing, like, nobody pays any attention to anything. They could just take us out.
The end is near.
Looks like I drank my poison. Is that it? Do I just... Oh.
I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it.
Oh boy. Something's coming in.
It shall not find me.
I'm gonna die anyway. Oh. It shall find me.
God,
Oh no.
that hand!
It's that thing. I think the thing that was in front of the monolith.
The window! The window!
Window. Get out the window. Aren't you... Didn't we take poison anyway? Or was it just morphine? I'm a little confused by that. But either way, it looks like I'm dead. I hope you enjoyed immersing yourself in our little pool of cosmic horror. We would appreciate if you took a moment to rate Dagon and check out other games. So that was cool. It was a cool, like, point and click type game, not really a lot of control, but the story was really cool. It was a lot of interesting stuff that I'd never heard of, and obviously Lovecraft is, if you like horror, you should know about his writings. I don't know a lot about it, but I do know a little bit. And I do know that most of it is pretty good stuff. So read the books. If you ever want to play this game, it's free on Steam. It's pretty cool. Obviously, you just saw the whole thing, so you don't really need to play it. But if you want to experience it yourself, I would. It was worth it. It was fun. And yeah, we'll do something new soon. And talk to you later.